Yes, indeed. Welcome into another episode of Total Hockey Now on the Total Hockey Now Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook network. I am at Pucking Thoughts, Adam Bernard. With me, as always, my line mates at Ant Rivera 86, Anthony Rivera, and at Fuzzy Chris 91, Christopher Murray up north of the border. Fellas, I don't want to waste too much time because there is a lot to get into here with these four series and what we got lined up for today. But I do want to mention that it will be a Wingstop night in this household. So,
nice. There we go.
That. So. There you go. Yeah, it's just me and Annabelle tonight, so gonna make it nice and easy. We'll pick up the wings when I get her from school, nice and easy.
I hope there's a lemon pepper on that order.
We'll see. I have to determine what we're gonna get, but there will be chicken wings being eaten during the Bruins Panthers game in my neck of the woods here on the West Coast for sure.
More importantly, will they be boneless?
There will be some boneless in the mix, as that is what the my child prefers, is boneless wings. So I will be eating with the the ones with the bones in them like an adult. But
she is a person of culture.
Yes, that is one thing. That is one thing she is at the ripe old age of 4. But yes, let's talk a little hockey here. And without further ado, we got Game 5 of Bruins and Panthers here, and the Panthers have a chance to close it out. We all know the series. Listen, we could talk about how all year long we wondered when the Bruins were gonna get exposed for having a Coyle Zaka 1-2 center punch, and here it is. This is when it's coming to fruition. However, we can't ignore the Sam Bennett effect here, who might get kidnapped the next time he's in Boston. Maybe it'll be like a Celtic Pride movie that they do again, only this time with Sam Bennett in the hockey world. But Brad Marchand not playing again in Game 5 because of a hit with Sam Bennett that when you see it at one angle, it doesn't look that bad. But then when you see the reverse angle, which took a little bit of time to come out, which was also a whole big issue, his arm seems to, we're not going to say involuntarily make a jabbing motion towards Mr. Marchand's face. And if that wasn't enough, the guy who tied the game in Game 4, Sam Bennett, cross-checks Charlie Coyle in the back, which forcing him into Jeremy Swayman. And, the goals have been overturned for less. And, Sam Bennett right now should not go anywhere in New England proper for a while is probably his safest course of action without some security.
Yeah.
The series over.
Yeah, it's probably best for him to stay out of there. But how apropos that, Boston is getting their tea, especially with a guy like Brad Marchand, who we know plays the way that he plays and has been one of those type of guys like Sam Bennett is for a long time. And it happens to be Marchand that goes out, but that just the fact that Marchand is out hurts this team. And I think that Florida closes this out tonight and does it at home. So, kudos to them. I have them winning the Stanley Cup, and I'm going to stick with that. And they've just played like a Stanley Cup type team. So we'll see what happens tonight.
I feel absolutely no pity for any of the Bruins, obviously, right? I was on the bandwagon just to make sure they got past the Leafs. I have moved away from that bandwagon pretty quickly. Like, I feel no pity for Brad Marchand, for the Bruins. This is the team I thought they would be all year, right? Like, no Bruins fan can explain how this team was able to get to the position that they are right now, because this is not a very good team. They have been miserable in their last 2 games. The only positive is Jeremy Swayman. He looks like the real deal. On Twitter, you got people yelling for Linus Ullmark. Like, I don't remember Linus Ullmark being able to score goals or shoot the puck. Like, that's not their problem here. This Boston team is bad. And look, we will never know what goaltender interference is. It's just, I mean, at this point, just flip a coin. We'll figure, just go with it. That's about it. Maybe Bennett deserved, a penalty there. Maybe the goal doesn't count. Like you said, Adam, we've seen a lot less get overturned. I will say this though, and again, I'm not just dumping on Bruin fans here, but
you are.
I don't think that Sam Bennett is punching Brad Marchand voluntarily in the face on that. And if anything, maybe he's trying to protect himself and he has his fist up and it gets Marchand. I'm not giving Brad Marchand the benefit of any doubt. In the same way, I'm not giving Tom Wilson the benefit of any doubt. Like you haven't earned it anymore. If anything, you probably deserve it for something you've previously done, 10 years ago. So I don't feel bad for the Bruins. This is the team that I thought they were. Like, get good. If not, go home.
Jeremy Swayman has had quite the playoffs. And, you can make the argument that they've only gotten as far as they've gotten because of him. I mean, that Toronto series really, if Toronto had showed some discipline early in the series, maybe that series goes a whole different way. So, but again, Boston is playing up a weight class right now. That being said, and I understand, okay, poetic justice, Brad Marchand, blah, all that stuff, but they're not getting any help right now. And I'm not one to defend the Boston team. The goal should have absolutely been overturned, and we can agree to disagree on whether this motion, and again, things are happening fast. You play ice hockey, I play ice hockey at a lower level. Things don't happen that fast at that level, but again, to me, once I see that other camera angle, it kind of looks like in the moment, it's like, hey, there's contact. Let me just get a quick little, just like exactly the way that Milo just gave you a jab in the face. He saw a window when he took it.
But if I'm Brad Marchand, I got to know who's on the ice with me. I got to know it's Sam Bennett who's coming. I got to know that this, he's rough around the edges. Like, I know what's coming. So, like, why am I shocked? Like, that's probably what Sam Bennett was telling himself. He knew who was coming in it. He thought maybe Marchand throws a reverse hit or something. We've seen it. So I just don't feel bad, man. I just don't feel bad. This is, to me, it's playoff hockey. And it's unfortunate that Marchand gets hurt. I don't want to see him get hurt. I'd much rather him be on the ice so that we don't have to hear about the excuses in the summer. But it is what it is. It's an unfortunate injury for Marchand, but this Bruins team isn't that much better with him in the lineup. They're just not a very good team.
And whether Marchand is in the lineup or not, like you said, Adam, they're now like playing with the heavyweights here. And the fact that they don't have Patrice Bergeron anymore and they don't have David Krejci, that was going to come and hit them in the face at some point in this playoffs. And it's happening here. And now they don't have Marchand, make it even worse.
So
hit them in the face. I see what you did there.
Yeah, exactly. Good job. So Ant's got them closing it out tonight. Last week we talked about this being a Panthers in under 5.5 games at plus 140. That's looking real good. I can see Boston, playing pissed off tonight. We got screwed. We're the underdog, and but I think Florida's just playing too well right now. I don't think they're going to be susceptible to that, and I do think the Panthers close it out tonight and maybe get a little bit of an extended break before the conference finals.
Were they not pissed off last game? I don't understand.
Yeah, but now you're like the world is really against you.
Now we're extra pissed off.
Cross-check guys in the net, and it doesn't matter.
Okay,
so.
I got you. Now the Bruins are extra pissed off. That's what they were waiting for. The double slice.
They've got the Panthers right where they want them. This is exactly what they were hoping for. Down 3-1, going to Florida, having to win 2 games in their building. This is what they wanted.
Maybe Boston thinks that the Florida Panthers are the Toronto Maple Leafs, but they're about to get a rude awakening.
So we are in agreement that we have one series ending tonight. One series that will not end tonight because it's only game 4. Is Edmonton and Vancouver. That one taking place in Edmonton tonight. And I got to give Anthony kudos here because I just mentioned that, Panthers in under 5.5 games plus 140. There were similar odds for the Oilers under 5.5. Anthony said, no, I don't like it. He says, he kind of talked me off the ledge, and good thing he did because that would be already for me. So, yeah, they lead 2-1. Carson Soucy's going to serve a 1-game suspension tonight for cross-checking Connor McDavid at the end of Game 3.
I feel like that was worse. I feel like that was worse than what Sam Bennett did to Marchand.
Yeah, I mean, after the whistle, cross-checking in the back, you know exactly who you're going after. Yeah, I mean,
and then he got hit in the face.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if you're McDavid, it's a rival series. Not that I don't advocate dirty play, but you're trying to. It's the playoffs. I'm trying to make sure that the top guy knows he ain't going to get through it easy. I mean, McDavid even said, like, hey, it's a physical series. It makes it more entertaining. Blah blah blah. So he's saying all the right things. He knows it's playoff hockey.
I would not want to wake up Connor McDavid.
That's the issue.
I get what you're trying to do. You got to get your licks in on Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. I still don't think they've been to their best yet. And if the last thing I want to do is get the best players in the world angry, because when they are, they're going to torch you. Like Chris Knobloch, McDavid played a crazy amount last game. So did Draisaitl. Hyman played like 26 minutes. Evan Bouchard played 31 minutes. And I don't remember the last time Evan Bouchard was this shutdown defenseman who can see that much ice time. He came out and he said, hey, we cannot run our players like that much ice time, those 4 or 5 guys. And it's true. But to an extent, like Edmonton has no depth. So these guys are going to be out here all the time. There's nobody else on that lineup who is good enough to carry this team. And we saw, Leon Draisaitl get a little chippy with the media about, posts not being saves and all that. But again, I just don't want to get those players going. I don't want to make them mad. If I'm Vancouver, like, you did what you had to do. You took advantage. The Edmonton Oilers played terrible defensively in that first period of Game 3. They were atrocious. They were awful. And you cannot give Brock Besser the opportunity to find the back of the net because he will do exactly that. I don't think Stuart Skinner was very good. Am I putting all my faith into Calvin Pickard tonight? No. Imagine how, I don't know, maybe we talked about it, but maybe Edmonton should have gone out to get a veteran backup or something just in case for these scenarios. I don't know, someone like Jake Allen or something, but they determined that Calvin Pickard was fine. By the way, Jack Campbell is somewhere. I don't know where he is, but that man's still collecting a $5 million paycheck a year. So again, do I feel bad for the Oilers? No, because you are exactly the team that we thought you were, right? You played well during, 2 months of the year. You got good goaltending, but when they don't have the depth and they don't have the goaltending, they're average.
I probably would have stuck with Stu Skinner for one more game, give him another chance to get right at home. Like you said, they were terrible defensively in the first period. So Skinner was not great, but it wasn't all him either. So I would have because now that you've gone to Pickard, that's your move. You've made your play now. So how's Skinner's confidence going to be if you go back to him after this? Did you tell Stu hey, I'm going to give you a night off regardless. This is Calvin's night. Don't worry about it. Regardless of what happens, you're back in Game 5. Or is this okay? Pickard is now the hot hand until he's not the hot hand anymore. So, I mean, either way, I mean, that is not two great options in the net, but I would have given Skinner one more chance before I would have gone to Pickard.
I guess maybe Nalov is looking for a boost here, kind of you know what I mean? It's easier to change the goalie than it is to do what else, who else, who are you going to sit from that bottom 6? Who cares? It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Right? How much more can you run your best players out? So I think maybe this is more that shock there that you're trying to send your team saying, hey, this is the guy who's paying for it because some of you can't play well defensively.
But that does work sometimes.
It sucks that Skinner is being outplayed by Artur. Was it Silvos?
Shilovs.
How's this happening right now?
Is Thatcher Demko Wally Pip here, and is Shilovs Lou Gehrig? I don't know. I don't think so. But man, they went to their third string goalie, and they really needed him to step up. And boy, has he stepped up here for them at the end of the Nashville series and now in the Edmonton series. I mean, I know the votes are already in for the Jack Adams Trophy, but Rick Tocchet showing us why he was nominated with the adjustments he's made in this series. And I know Edmonton has been playing their best hockey, but he really has, and maybe it's a situation, we talked about how those games early in the season, Vancouver, beating Edmonton 3 times meant nothing because that was when the Oilers were in the doldrums. But maybe this is a situation where they just happen to have their number this year regardless. And I think we'll see what happens here in Game 4 tonight. But, yeah, I'm very impressed with Vancouver right now.
time too. I'll give them the credit that they deserve. They've gone out, they've taken advantage of their opportunities. Edmonton has given them just cracks in the door to hurt them, and they've taken it. So good for them. That's it. They've gone out. The goalie is good. He's been better than Stuart Skinner. Like he's still given up 11 goals in 3 games. Like, it's not great, but he's doing the job that he needs to do. Like, nobody expects him to be Thatcher Demko, but he's coming out and he's playing just well enough to be good. So good for him. Maybe it's just, I don't know. I feel bad that the Edmonton Oilers didn't go out to get a goalie, because now they're going through this carousel of like trying to find a spark when you didn't need to do that.
It was definitely a new move they needed to make in terms of getting a better backup. And we're seeing that now, but Skinner was playing better at the time. But just to go back to Vancouver here, I mean, he faced 44 shots the other night, stopped 41 of them. I mean, Shelovs is answering the bell here. I mean, that has probably been the most and then Besser too, like you said, like you give him an open look, like what happens? He gets a hat trick or almost a hat trick, and then it gets taken away and whatever. But that is a guy that maybe we'll talk about a little later. We're talking about Conn Smythe Odds, could be a potential dark horse there. But what do we think happens tonight in Edmonton? Do we think we have an even series going back to Vancouver, or does Vancouver have a chance to end this in 5 after tonight?
I think Edmonton comes out with a little bit. I just don't know how you bet against Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. That's just not a recipe to make money. Betting against the 2 best players in the world, like especially Draisaitl, you could see a lot of people were kind of like criticizing him because they were like, "Oh, he's being a little baby and he's whining and this and that." And I'm like, maybe, but those are competitive guys, and they're not out here to give you an ounce, not there to give you an inch, and they're too good to be kept at bay for that long. So I just believe that the Oilers will figure it out at some point. They're too good to be this bad.
I am concerned at the fact that they are going to Pickard over Skinner here. Because what if they do lose this game tonight? Obviously, they're going to go back to Skinner, and I would assume that kind of takes him a little bit out of his mind frame that they took him out, as the starter, and then put Pickard in to try to, generate something. And it doesn't work. Like I'm concerned that's going to mess with his psyche going into the next game. So they better win tonight. Edmonton better win tonight. They cannot lose this game.
Calling it a must win here, because you don't want to go back to Vancouver game 5. That building will be rocking if they got it. I mean, the building will be rocking regardless, but if they got a chance to close the series out at Rogers Arena, you bet that place is going to be nuts. I do think Edmonton evens a series up tonight. I think it's asking a lot. Vancouver lost home ice and then got it back with game 3. I think it's asking a lot to have them go in and take both games in Edmonton. I know we had said, last week with Edmonton being at home and have the line matching advantage, that they would be able to really take care of Vancouver. Didn't necessarily work last game. I think it'll work a little bit better this game. And like, Chris mentioned earlier, this move may be meant to rally everybody else that like, hey, Skinner's paying the price for you guys not performing. Well, let's see how they respond. I think Edmonton evens us up when we head back to Vancouver tonight. It's going to be a close one, but I think overall Edmonton pulls it out. Next up here, and this series took quite the turn we were not expecting. About an hour before puck drop yesterday, after the first 2 games were just lived up to the whole entertainment. We all thought this was going to be the most entertaining series. You had the Avalanche rally in game 1 to win, and they almost pull it off again in game 2. If 5 minutes more, maybe they pull it off. But then going into game 4, Dallas played well in game 3. Valeri Nichushkin going into what I mentioned as stage 3 of the NHL's player assistance program. He's going to be suspended for 6 months and then could potentially be reinstated, no pay. And let's dive into that aspect of it for a second, because it absolutely took Devon Taves not playing too. That's a big blow to them. But they couldn't catch a break before the game. But Nichushkin's leading the team, 9 goals in the playoffs, and to just lose that guy again, don't know what happened. Casey Middlestat and Jared Bednar said the right things about, hey, we just want him to get right and all that. But I think Jack Johnson put it very well at this point, quote, he told the Denver Post, quote, Nichushkin made his decisions. That's all I'm going to say on that. He made his decisions. I couldn't agree more with that. Like, you have a watchful eye. Like, what happened that you couldn't, whatever you did, it's affecting your team in the playoffs, and probably all these guys are going to be going home after game 5 or game 6 at this point. Like nobody else is going to take a chance on this guy. I don't care about the talent. He's done.
Will we ever find out what he actually like? Does that will that ever come out?
I mean, that's more of a legal thing. It's not going to come out from the league, but bottom line is the guy he has a problem that needs to be addressed, and he's not doing his end. So,
I mean, he basically handicapped the Avalanche, and now they are down 3-1 in this series. I don't see them coming back from this. Maybe they could take one game here, but as soon as Chris got on the Georgiev train for this series, and
we really can't even blame him for this series at this point. Like hasn't been really the problem most of the time.
Both those losses are at home too for Colorado. What is like? Yeah. Like if anywhere I thought Georgiev would lose, I thought it would be on the road, but apparently not.
I mean, it's just like it really just sucked all the wind. Right? Like this was like like game 3 even was a good game, even though Dallas played better than them. But I really thought Colorado was going to even the series. It was going to turn into a best of 3, and then no Taves, no Nichushkin right before. I mean, yeah, yeah, I know teams need to be resilient, but you're asking a lot when you lose one of your top defensemen for health reasons, and then you lose your most prolific producer of the playoffs an hour before puck drop because he's in trouble again. Not because it's a nagging injury he's in and out of the lineup. He got in trouble with the league again. And this is his last chance because if he goes into stage 4, that's it. The league may not reinstate you at that point after a year-long suspension. So this legitimately is his last chance. There's enough talent there that maybe somebody decides, screw it, we'll take a chance on him. But I can't see a world where he ever plays in an Avalanche sweater again.
How fitting is it for the Avalanche that they were the best team at home? They'll probably win in Dallas and then come back and they lose all 3 of their games there. Like
that's like one of those like weird like twists to end the season, but it certainly could happen. I mean, maybe you get a desperate Colorado team that comes out and pushes it, but Dallas, other than their ability to not hold on to a lead the first 2 games, has played well. And they're, I know Chris Tanev, is a little banged up right now, but right now Dallas, is the better team in the series, and there's no reason to think that Colorado's going to come back at this point.
They've taken, give Dallas credit. They've taken time and space away from the best players. McKinnon has not been himself. Cale Makar's like a -6. He doesn't have any points. So Dallas has been able to slow things down, make it tough. And they know that they don't have to worry about the rest of that lineup, right? It's a little bit of the same story for like Edmonton. There's no depth really with the Colorado Avalanche. You know exactly what you're getting and where you're getting it from. And then it's just a question of getting a couple of pucks behind Georgiev, which seems to be an easier task. Also, I mean, Wyatt Johnson has stepped up. Kid looks like he's going to torment the league at some point. He's out here just finding the back of the net. That adds even more depth to an already very good team. I will say this about Nichushkin, though. It's unfortunate for him to put himself in this situation, but it's also hard. Like he's clearly struggling with something, right? He's clearly struggling with something. And I know a lot of people want to toss him out the window and say, hey, man, like figure it out. And that is fine. The NHL is a business. You need results and there's things that you need to do. But in the process, for a lot of people who struggle from addiction, it's not uncommon to relapse. And unfortunately, that seems to have been the case here because stage 3 does not seem like it is a voluntary process, right? Putting yourself into the NHLPA's player assistance program is voluntary. Getting into stage 3 is not voluntary. I'm sure there were conditions that he had to follow. Again, this was a voluntary process by him. So obviously he identifies the need that something needs to change. It's not uncommon for players to suffer relapses and everything. And I understand the team trying to, like, maybe they are angry in the moment because this is the 2nd year in a row, right? And I feel like whatever happened last year was kind of one of those things where you're like, man, that's a poor choice. And of course, this choice here is poor. But again, I feel like this is a guy who just needs a lot of support and a lot of help. And wherever he gets it from, if it's from the Avalanche or it's from the league again, like there is a part that he has to do here. And I'm not excusing what he's done because obviously he had conditions out or whatnot, and he did not live up to them. But again, this is like it's a tightrope between saying, hey, like we'll do as much as we can, and then tossing them to the curve when they can't keep up with what they need to do. So for me, I guess the number one thing that I'm worried about Nichushkin is to get himself in order, not just for him, but for his family and everybody close to him. Those are the number one things for it. I'm sure he will find a job somewhere. The NHL is notorious for giving as many chances as you humanly need. If Tony DeAngelo can find a home, I can't imagine why Valeri Nichushkin can't. And like you said, the skill is there. Like there's no question that the skill is there, that he can compete, that he can play. It took him a moment. He had to get to Colorado to figure this out, right? Couldn't really do it in Dallas. He was there. But I guess maybe you got to find that structure for that player. You got to find that room that can kind of hone all that in and help him. I'm not saying there's something wrong in Colorado, but maybe it's just not there. Maybe he can't find the success that he needs in Colorado, and maybe it's going to be somewhere else. But this isn't also a question where they can just terminate his contract. Like I said, it's not something that he violated, and that would mean that he's eligible for a contract termination, like let's say Corey Perry was. And it's, I can't imagine the path that the Colorado Avalanche would entertain about trying to buy him out and then go through the grievance of that and everything. It's a sticky situation, but I think at least for the next 6 months, it's going to be something that neither the player nor the team wants to deal with. And then they cross that bridge when they get there and see how they can handle the situation. But it's just unfortunate for everybody.
It's an unfortunate situation all around, and you obviously want the best for him. All the reasons you said, the best for him and his family and for him to get through whatever he's dealing with. That being said, if I'm a teammate of his and I'm a loyal guy, you can ask anybody I've ever played with. I'm a great teammate. I've been voted captain of multiple teams, and it's not because of my abilities. When you're making decisions that affect other guys' chances to get, to achieve their goals and their future contracts, and Nate McKinnon has a Stanley Cup. If he never wins again, he still has one. There are other guys in that team that are trying to get there. That are, you know what I mean? Like his decisions now have an impact directly on other things. And I understand there are things in life more important than hockey. But like you said earlier, this is the second year in a row in the playoffs. Second year in a row. Like how many kicks at the can do you get?
You could definitely be frustrated.
The Edmonton Oilers have the two best players on the planet, as most people would agree. How far do they get in the playoffs every year? So as good as Colorado is, as great as they looked against Winnipeg, and early on against Dallas, they looked like they were going to make Dallas crap their pants every time they had a lead. It's all gone like that. It's gone. And it's not to say the series is over. Colorado could come back, but let's be real here. That's a lot for a locker room to overcome. You saw what happened with the Flyers and the Carter Hart situation. They were playing really well. That news comes down. Bam. Same thing with the Coyotes. Why did they go on a 10-game losing streak in the middle of nowhere in January and February when they had been playing pretty well before that? Oh, they got the Utah news that they're going to have to uproot their lives in a few months. And you got to shut the hell up about it. You can't tell anybody. So
it's unfortunate. Yeah.
Yeah, it's part of it. But
I can see how a player could probably be on the surface quite angry about it. Like Jack Johnson's comments are not, but obviously he would probably be frustrated. Like he's getting older, so there's not that many, kicks left at it. The same thing for guys like Zach Parise, right? Who have never won one, are probably trying to chase it and is in a good position to it. It's definitely on the surface. The emotion is probably high for those players having to sit there and say, "Hey, man, this happens again." And maybe with some time that goes through, maybe they come back down to earth a little bit. But I wouldn't be surprised either if the team just said, "Hey, we just don't want this around us anymore. Like it's too much of a distraction for the talent that's there." I can see that, or I can see the players kind of rallying around and saying, "Hey, look, one of us, and we got to make sure that we take care of it, and we'll do something." And maybe the team says, "Hey, we'll support in every way that we can." But again, it's up to the player to do its part. And like I said, I guess it's just about getting the help and making sure that they get, addiction is real, right? So it's a tough can to kick, and here we are.
It's a spider web on top of a spider web, on just like with the layers and everything involved, and everybody feeling the way they feel, and nobody's wrong in how they feel, but there are priorities on what needs to handle and all that. But the bottom line here is things are not looking good for Colorado. Dallas maybe has dodged a bullet here in the sense that happened to Colorado, and now maybe they can have an easier path to whomever's waiting for them, or whoever they're waiting for between Vancouver and Edmonton. Now, the series we thought was going to be short, but does not appear as it's going to be short anymore because it is going 6. Nobody thought it was going to be short. And then the Rangers went up 3-0, and then people started thinking oh, maybe it's over now. And then here we are going back to game 6. Carolina's got the last 2. They've got the momentum. The Rangers, Carolina has come back despite being 1 for 20 on the power play. That's also impressive in itself, that they're not humming on special teams and they're still able to hang around this series. For the first time, though, in 2024, the Rangers have some adversity, and it's going to be interesting to see how they respond to this. What do we think here? Just, temp check going into Game 6 here. Are we looking at a 7-game series, or do the Rangers kind of dig down and say, nope, we're good with this? Championship teams, stop the bleeding as quickly as they can. We know we got to get this taken care of here.
Well, you got the same group of players that you've had over the last couple of years, right? And history tells us that I would say, nope, we would go to a Game 7. Now, I'm not saying they're losing Game 7 because I have them going to the conference finals. But when you go up 3-0 here, and I know it's happened in the past before, everyone thought this series was going to go to Game 7. But when you're up 3-0, you got to kind of have to shut the door. And the Rangers, and I'm pretty sure you agree, Adam, have been notorious for not ending series earlier than they should be. And, you look back 2 years ago when they went to the conference finals, took a 2-0 series lead against Tampa, ended up losing that series. Last season, 2-0 series lead against the Devils, end up losing that series. There has to be some level of concern, even with how well the Rangers played all year, winning the President's Trophy. There has to be some level of concern that they are going back to Carolina here and having to play over there against this team who everyone thought this series was going to go 7 anyway. So they might have awakened the sleeping giant in this Carolina Hurricanes team.
I wasn't worried after Game 4 because I thought the Hurricanes were going to win Game 4 because they're too good of a team to be swept. I know the Rangers have played really well. I said that Carolina is going to dig down. That they're not going to let themselves get swept out of the playoffs at home. Game 4 was like, all right, whatever. You see that all the time. Teams fight to live another day when they're down 3-0, and then they go on and lose Game 5. Rangers didn't play their best hockey in Game 5. Carolina had one very strong period where they made the Rangers pay, and often. I'm not going to say I'm worried yet. Let's see how Game 6 starts. If Carolina jumps them early in Game 6, yes, I'm worried. If we have an even hockey game, and it's pretty balanced at least to start, I'm not concerned anymore. I still, you still have Game 7 in your home building, in your back pocket if it has to get there. The Garden's going to be crazy, but I like you said, learn your lesson from the previous couple of years. You already, they cut you on the way down when they were almost done. Stop the bleeding. Don't let it go to Game 7, because now Carolina has the momentum. Yes, it's in Madison Square Garden, but that scares the crap out of me because this is the first time they're facing adversity and they really don't have much time to figure out how to respond. They got to do it now. They got 2 days to figure it out.
Look, and this, like I mentioned before, this roster has been here outside of a couple of new additions. The core has been here for a while now, and the core pretty much got Gallant out of here at the end of last season. Devil's advocate, I don't want to put this on you. I'm not doing this because I'm a Devils fan. The Rangers lose this series. What do you do from here? Because this is 3 straight years now that this type of thing has happened in series before.
My answer to that is I don't know right now, because as you guys know, I originally thought Carolina was going to win this series. And I've learned over the years to be a very cautiously optimistic Rangers fan. And even after the first 2 games, I'm like, all right, let's see how Carolina responds at home. It's not a series till somebody loses at home. And now that and then when I'm like, no, I'm going to let my guard down. They look really good. They're playing this well against Carolina. Yes, I know Florida's going to be a behemoth next round, but man, do the Rangers look good. I finally let myself buy into it, and here we are. So I don't know what the offseason looks like if they lose to Carolina at this point. I mean, I don't think Laviolette's going anywhere by any stretch of the imagination, but there needs to be, I don't know what shakeup you make, but yeah, I mean, that's the next step, is maybe making a major change in the lineup. But then again, there's such chemistry in this lineup too that you don't want to overreact to over what's right now just a couple of bad periods essentially.
I mean, the Rangers' number one problem, I guess, a little bit was defensively. Jacob Trouba has looked terrible in those 2 games. Like, I get that he scored a shorthanded goal, but outside of that, man, it's just been a liability on the ice, and that's your captain. So it's hard to put him in a press box. But I feel like if he wasn't wearing a C, that's probably where he ends up at some point. I mean, the Rangers go into that period, they're up 1-0. They're kind of playing that game where they don't want to lose, right?
Yeah.
They're not playing to win. They're just trying not to lose. And Jordan Staal scores a really good goal. Evgeny Kuznetsov did not look good in those 2 periods. He scores a goal, and now all of a sudden we're trailing 2-1. We have to play catch up. I mean, we know that the Rangers don't really shoot the puck a ton, and I think at times that's their Achilles heel here because you have to get more shots on Freddie Anderson. Like, yes, he played. Do I think he played well? Yes. Was he like above and beyond? No. Has he been above and beyond in the playoffs? No. So you have to find a way to get more pucks on goal and make his life a little bit more difficult because the puck can end up behind him, but you have to make a commitment to getting more pucks on net, traffic, shooting it. And again, it's not how the Rangers play hockey. This isn't a team that goes out and shoots the puck a ton. They like to possess it. They're good defensively. They have a strong goalie. I don't think it was Igor's fault. I mean, he didn't really give up anything that was soft. This was just a case of the Rangers playing to not lose. And usually when you play like that, you end up losing because you give the other team the momentum that they're looking for. So now, yes, Carolina has 2. And I mean, they're going home and they have all the belief in the world that they can win a 3rd game in a row. So it's not a good place for them. I do not want to be the Rangers and lose game 6. Like, I don't want to give Carolina the hope that they can do it. Even if they fall short, Carolina right now feels like they can win 4 in a row. And that's a really dangerous type of confidence to give a team here because Carolina knows that they have good players. They know now that they can kind of whine and grind you kind of down and get the goals that you need. And like you said, I mean, their power play is 1 for 20. Like, how are they even in this series? It's not great. I would not be optimistic as a Rangers fan.
If Carolina comes out and scores the first goal, I'm not worried. The Rangers have shown an ability to come back a lot of times in this regular season, playoffs, all that. Carolina gets out to an early 2-0 lead in game 6, and now you can start clamping down on them. Now I'm worried. So, well, it's not necessarily to say if Carolina gets the first goal, it's a bad situation. But if Carolina find themselves up with a 2-0 lead and the Rangers and the Rangers just, sometimes when you're watching a team play, you're like, all right, they're down 2-0, but they're clicking, things are going all right. They're not out of this. And then sometimes the team's down 2-0, you're like, oh man, like we're in trouble. Which one of those is it's going to be? Maybe the Rangers, and the other thing too, every series is a 2-day layoff. I think this comes at a perfect time for the Rangers because it breaks that every other day rhythm and cycle. And you know what? After you've lost 2 in a row, that's exactly what you want is to break that rhythm a little bit. You have an extra day thrown in the mix. They have an extra day to think about things. I don't think that's the worst thing here. So, game 6 it's Thursday night, man. That is, check on me a few times during that game, please.
We'll send out the squad in case we don't hear from you on Thursday should the Rangers lose.
Yeah, I don't even have my Thursday. We have a bye this week for my Thursday night hockey team, so I don't even have like that distraction. Like, no, I'm here for the game. I got nothing else. That's it. So, never make it easy. That's one thing that the Rangers do consistently is they never make it easy, ever. So went through all 4 series. You got Boston, Florida, and Edmonton, Vancouver tonight. Colorado, Dallas tomorrow, and then Rangers, Hurricanes on Thursday. We'll see if Roope Hintz comes back for the Stars in that one because that would obviously be a big blow if they don't have their top line center there, maybe opening a window for Carolina to get back in it. Now, we're going to talk Conn Smythe Odds every week here as we get through the playoffs here. And let's get that ticker up on the screen with some of the Conn Smythe Trophy favorites. And this was just updated as of today. So you got Jake Ettinger at plus 700, Shesterkin at plus 750, Barkov at plus 900, Kachuk at 950, McDavid at plus 1,000, Miro Heiskanen at 1,000, Wyatt Johnson, who you talked about earlier, who is on fire right now, plus 1,200. Jason Robertson, Sergei Bobrovsky, and Carter Verhaeghe all plus 2,000 there. So looking at those odds, knowing that you gotta at least pick a team that's going to get to the Stanley Cup Finals and likely win it because it very rarely comes from a losing team. Of those odds, and it's okay if you think Ettinger's if Dallas is gonna win and you want to go with the goalie, it's fine to go chalk, but you got to pick one guy right now. Who are you taking?
I'm not just going to pick one. I'm just not going to play by the rules. That's it.
Okay.
I will go by the Dallas side. Wyatt Johnson is obviously, to me, I feel like at plus 1,200 is really good money there. I will also take a stab at Miro Heiskanen. I think it's hard for defensemen to win that just because, I don't know, they'll give it to a forward or they'll give it to a goalie like Jake Oettinger. But I feel like Jake Oettinger hasn't been, I don't know. I don't want to say if it's elite, but I don't feel like I don't know. Man, Wyatt Johnson is fun. Like, he's fun to watch. So he has been good. Miro Heiskanen has been really, really good as well, both defensively and offensively. Like, yes, the production is nice, but you know what you're getting from him. And that Dallas defense, like, Miro Heiskanen is really good. And then the rest of them are just kind of there and they play their position well. Like, I'm not going to take anything away from Essel Lindell, Ryan Suter, Chris Tanev. Like, they know what their role is, right? And Thomas Harley was a nobody up until this year. So I'm not going to take anything away because they play well as a team. Miro Heiskanen is by far the leader of that defensive core. So I can see him. It's a stretch because defensemen don't win it, but I can see that. I will also throw some money here on assuming that they can make it this far, Brock Besser, because without him, the Vancouver Canucks don't exist. So he's at what? Plus a ton of money here. Where is he? Where is he? Plus 3,500.
Yeah.
Look, if by some miracle Vancouver makes it there, like yes, I don't know if Vancouver wins the Stanley Cup, and at that point, that's a thing that Vancouver can decide on themselves. It can't go to a goalie, right? Can't go to Thatcher Demko. It can't go to, Sheilov. It can't go to anybody else. I don't think it goes to Quinn Hughes. I just don't think that he has been that good in the playoffs. Like, who else is it? If it's not for Brock Besser, like, Vancouver's not out of the first round. They don't get past Nashville. And I don't know. Why not? Why not?
I agree with if Vancouver gets there. Although, and yeah, Besser would be, because it just he bites the puck, puts the puck in the net a lot. And yeah, I don't know if it goes to any of the goalies, but yeah, I would, if it's Vancouver, I'd say Besser there. I'm gonna go. If you're gonna break the rules and pick two, I'm gonna break the rules and pick two. I'll go a long shot and a shorter odds guy. Long shot, let's go Carter Verhaeghe plus 2,000, because the guy's just he scores clutch goals. Florida is obviously a team that we think is going to listen. We think they're closing the series out, and even if the Rangers advance, it's going to be a close series. So assuming they get to the Stanley Cup Finals as one of the better teams out there, I'll take Carter Verhaeghe. And then right now, I guess you got to think Dallas is the team coming out of the West, and yeah, I'll go Ettinger. I think if because Dallas has got a lot of names you could potentially give it to, so in that situation, easy to give it to the goalie. Now, just to your point about defensemen winning the Conn Smythe Trophy, it's happened a few times in the last few years. You had Cale Makar in 2022, Victor Hedman in 2020, and Duncan Keith in 2015. But before that, Nicholas Lidstrom, 2002. Brian Leach, 1994. So it is not given to defensemen very often. So
modernly it is. So that's good, though. That makes me feel better about that. I mean, Cale Makar obviously earned it at that point, but those are some pretty elite defensemen there, and I think Miro Heiskanen can join that conversation.
All right,
I'm going to go against my Stanley Cup choice here and go with Wyatt Johnston of Dallas. Like Chris said, the odds right there are perfect for him. He has 11 points and in those 11 games. So he's looking good right now coming out of the West. And out of the Eastern Conference, I'm going to go with Matthew Tkachuk. I know it's an easy answer, but he's got 13 points, 4 goals. And I think he could have won it last year if Florida won the Stanley Cup with how well he played. So I think we're going to get a similar type of play from him this time around. And to remember, he wasn't healthy last season. He was hurt. So yes. we got a healthy Matthew Tkachuk. I'm going to go with him as winning it if it goes to the East.
It would be fitting if Sasha Barkov didn't get it, because he's always like, people recognize he's one of the top centers of the game, but he's also kind of overlooked too. So I feel like as strong as a performance as he is, and he's an absolute important player for that Panthers. Yeah, I think it would go to like a Verhaeghe, Tkachuk, Bobrovsky before it went to Barkov, but you never know. Maybe he gets that recognition. So we're going to check Conn Smythe Odds every week here as the playoffs progress. Always fun to talk about that. Now, another thing we want to get into is the future of Steven Stamkos. So we touched on this a little bit last week, but we'll do a little bit of a deeper dive here because, yeah, it's likely that he's going to come back home, minus 250 odds there, as you see scrolling across the bottom of the screen. But it's fun to think about the fact that he could go some other places. So let's start kicking the tires on some other destinations and some rumored spots here for him. So, I know the Toronto hometown thing, but, I think that would just require way too much moving parts around and stuff like that. And Toronto's got bigger issues. Chris talked about Montreal last week. Come back, play with your buddy Martin St. Louis. You get to have an impact on a young, fun roster that maybe could sneak a playoff spot if you're there. That's a possibility. If Florida doesn't bring back Sam Reinhart, they've got some money. What a way to stick it to Tampa if you go out and get Stamkos. We talked about Utah being a long shot. And then you got Nashville in the mix too, where if, he wanted to go try somewhere else, but not be too far from home, that would be it. But out of all those teams, where would you like to see him land? And where do you think he ends up landing?
I think he stays in Tampa like you guys do. If it would be interesting if the owners in Utah decide they want to spend and that's their big move to welcome that team over there. But the team I'd like to see him go is Nashville. I really like to see him fit there. They were just, at the right end of the playoffs there and almost won a round. I wouldn't mind seeing him go to Nashville.
He probably stays in Tampa Bay just because it's easy for him. But I don't know why Montreal wouldn't be a great spot for him. He doesn't have to play in Toronto, right? I don't think he's going to Toronto. I don't think he's going to go there and live in that mess. After watching what's happening to Mitch Marner, no, he's not going there to deal with that. And Toronto has bigger issues that they have to deal with here. So, and look, Steven, like I said, a couple weeks ago, you can just leave your family there. Leave your family in Florida. They can continue to soak up the weather. Montreal goes down to Florida every once in a while. It's fine. They go down for Christmas. You can still hang out.
Well, they play in the same division as the Panthers and the Lightning.
Look, Steven Stamkos wants to win a Stanley Cup, so he's not going to the Blackhawks. He's not going there. He's not going to Detroit because that's not working. He's not going to go he's not going to uproot everything so he can go and fade away in his career. He's been to the Stanley Cup Finals quite a bit. We saw what he put his body through just to have a chance to be there, right? So. He wants to win. I believe that he continues to want to win and he will pursue that. And Montreal's the team that's right coming there. They need a big winger who can score some goals, right? If you need Stamkos to play center, he can play that as well. He was a centerman once upon a time. And imagine him being able to just clap bombs on the power play from Nick Suzuki. You could have Stamkos on one side. You can have Cole Caulfield on the other side. Montreal's an up-and-coming team, and he knows it. Howie knows it. And we can all, live in harmony here. And like you said, Marty St. Louis is the head coach. Vinny LeCavalier is part of, upper management. He does something with a fake title. Why would you not come to Montreal? Why? You know what I mean? There's an insider out there. There's lots of great places he can live. Let's say he does want to bring his family. There's great schools as well. In the nice Brossard area, we can get a nice home and there's nice parks and everything. The facility's not far. I know there's snow. I know there's taxes and there's French people. But we can make this work, Steven. If we really, really tried, we can. And it's not the same pressure. It's just not it. The Montreal Canadiens need to get better. Yes. But he's not coming in as the guy who's got to do everything. There's other young kids around here to keep him fresh, keep him young, keep him scoring. Why not?
I love the pitch here. This elevator pitch for him to go to Montreal is pretty strong, and in some ways it does make sense. If he just cares about going to play somewhere that's different, that's going to make him happy around younger players that he'll play well with. Oh, one of your old best buds is the head coach of the team. I can see that happening for sure. Utah, I don't think he has any interest, but if that new owner is, like you said, trying to make a splash, what's a better way to bring in a guy like Steven Stamkos? And, people are not willing to do something. No, I have no desire to live in Utah, blah, blah, blah. Everybody's got a price or within reason somehow. So I can't think of his name off the top of my head. The new Utah owner, Yeah, if he wants to make a splash and he wants to bring in a name that people are going to recognize, that people are going to go out and buy jerseys for right away, there's your guy.
His name is Mitch Marner. That's ship Marner over to Utah. Let him go live there if he wants to go have fun. I do agree, though, that every player has a price, and we'll see. I just don't know if Utah wants to invest like that type of money for like Stamkos at his age kind of thing.
But I mean, usually they have so much cap space. I mean, I don't even know if they would care at that point.
Maybe, but I just think he's like, what a great place Montreal is to live. It's one of those like top 3 cities in Canada, obviously. Like it's not Toronto, right? The traffic is not as bad, but there's like just the downtown culture, Steven. You know what I mean? Like it's right there. I know there's no jet skiing on like your like house on the side of the beach. Like I get that, but I don't know. We can figure that out. There's other things that we can do here.
I do think ultimately, yeah, like you guys, he ends up staying in Tampa. I think it's a lot of posturing, back and forth, but they end up finding to get something done because that's just what's best for all parties involved at the end of the day. If Tampa wants to continue to be a playoff team over the next couple of years and try and milk this window for whatever it's left, they need Stamkos there. I do like, with Nashville, I think that's probably the best fit of him having an impact and them needing a guy like Stamkos. I don't think it's enough to necessarily put them in the classes of like the Dallases and those teams of the West, but definitely would be a nice fit. I don't think it happens. Detroit would be intriguing. Steve Yzerman running things there. Obviously used to run things in Tampa. I think, Patrick Kane, who knows what's going to happen with him. You inject him into that lineup. It's a similar vibe as Montreal. Detroit was right there on the playoff line this year. I could see that being an intriguing fit too. But at the end of the day, he's probably staying in Tampa. So it's there a minus 250. The Chicago plus 950 I thought was interesting. I'm like, is it really that appealing to go play with Connor Bedard? I mean, it is, but like, you're not going to the playoffs. And if that's how you want to spend your last couple of years, that's not how I'd want to do it. But I'd find some.
Nah. I'm not going to go live in Chicago, deal with all that snow, deal with that weather just to finish at the bottom of the standings. Like at that point, go sign in San Jose.
Yeah, exactly.
Still be by a beach. You can still finish at the bottom of the division. Like,
that's saying in Anaheim at that point. If that's what you're looking for, go to Anaheim. San Jose beaches are not the best. They're not the beaches you're picturing when you think of California. Maybe Santa Cruz.
I just assume California is just beautiful from top to bottom. So.
I mean, it is, but in different ways. Like there's whole different vibes. Northern California, coastal California, Southern California. But yes, Steven Stamkos probably won't end up on the West Coast, but he could do worse than Anaheim. Now, the other thing we wanted to get to here before we get to sweater weather and wrap things up on this edition, Total Hockey Now here on the Total Hockey Now YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook network. You could, give us a like, review, subscribe, all that stuff down there. Let's talk coaching vacancies. I handed out some homework. I told the guys, pick a coaching vacancy and pick your guy to fill that vacancy and why. So clearly Anthony took the Devils as one of the vacancies, as our resident Devils guy. Chris wanted the Kings, even though they have yet to officially make a decision on the interim status of Jim Hiller. So we do consider that vacant. And me being here in the North Bay, I took the team that plays in the South Bay, being the San Jose Sharks. Other teams with vacancies, the Toronto Maple Leafs, as we all know. Craig Berube talking with them, I believe, today or soon. Winnipeg has an opening with the retirement of Rick Bowness. Seattle also has an opening, but I think, and a lot of people think this Dan Bilesman is going to get promoted once Coachella Valley's out of their AHL playoff run. So let's start with Anthony. The Devils have had this vacancy for a bit. They get rid of Lindy Ruff. Obviously, Travis Green not coming back. He is with Ottawa. Who do you want to take over behind the Devils bench?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Jay Woodcroft here. And, reading up on these guys, Woodcroft seems to fit what Tom Fitzgerald is looking for in a guy that works with the analytics. And that's where a lot of, these teams are going. So I think that he's going to be the guy that gets the job. And, you look at the other guys, Berube, obviously Sheldon Keefe is interesting as well. But does what happened in Toronto follow him where he couldn't get through in a couple of playoff spots here? I don't know. I think Berube goes to Toronto. Just seems that way. But I think it's between Sheldon Keefe and Woodcroft. And if I pick one of them, I think I'm going to go Woodcroft here. But if this is the guy that, Tom Fitzgerald wants, this is probably it for him. I don't think he gets another opportunity to go at this again, and he better make sure he gets it right. And on top of that, they better make sure they get a goalie. That whatever coach they get, if they're not getting a goalie, this is not going to, I don't think, end well.
Doesn't matter. Yeah, if you don't improve the goaltending, it doesn't matter if you bring Toe Blake back from the dead. I'll say this. I think the Devils, because we know Mike Sullivan in Pittsburgh is Tom Fitzgerald's guy. I think they've been waiting that out as long as they could to see what Pittsburgh's doing. He's still the coach, and we've seen teams wait to let guys go. But I mean, it's starting to get pretty late here. You're starting to get into, we're getting closer to the offseason where you want to know what coach you're going to have going into a draft and all that stuff. So
they said before the draft, the Fitzgerald said before the draft he wanted a coach in place, and if they don't know what they're doing with Sullivan, if they're going to hang on to Sullivan, then he's not coming here. They're going to wait this out. I don't know what's going on, obviously, with Rob Brindamore as well, because now that the Hurricanes have won 2 games, it doesn't look like he's going anywhere, because everyone thought that maybe he'd be let go too. And that's another top name. But the big name right now is Berube, and everyone seems to think that he's going to Toronto.
I think, but that's what Toronto needs, is a guy like Berube for sure. And that's the other thing too. You can't wait too long to see if someone's going to shake free, because he's, and Craig Berube even said it, or his agent said it, like, hey, he's not going to be out here forever. So if you want him, come talk to him. And that's what the Devils have to be careful of too. But because there's still a lot of decent names out there, they can, teams can afford to slow play it a little bit. So you've got more likely Jay Woodcroft, but also Sheldon Keefe in the mix for the Devils. Chris, you took the Kings. Jim Hiller, is he staying, or is he going to be replaced?
Look, if you're an interim coach and you as an organization believe that your coach did a good job, you would remove that interim title as soon as possible. Like you're like, hey, this is the guy. This is the confidence that we have.
Like
they haven't done that.
Drew Bannister.
Right, exactly. So they haven't done that with Hiller. So my assumption is that they're not going to renew it, because if you did, I don't know, you would have done that. Like, what are you doing? Sniffing around, looking to see if there's better? We know that there is. And his name is Gerard Gallant. He's a guy who I think this is a great spot for him. He's not going to a team that's not very good. This is a team that got off to a great start, and then they fumbled. So then they got rid of a coach. They brought in Hiller, and now they're going to go through another coach. They need some stability here. So go out and get a guy who can bring you that stability. I know some people don't like Gerard Gallant. There are other good names there as well, but I just think this is the spot for him. Like, there are other teams that maybe are going to entertain him. But I think if I'm him, I get to live on the beach as well. Come on, let's not skip it. We know there's there's something there to be said to it. Just looking at some of the other teams that need coaches, I'm like, I'm not going to Winnipeg. No, I want nothing to do with the Toronto Maple Leafs job, because I feel like that's just not it. I mean, why not? Why not go to LA, turn that around? You got good leadership in the room. This is a team that I think can still compete. I don't know if they're a Stanley Cup winning team, or at least LA feels like they are. But I think Gerard Gallant in LA would be a wonderful fit.
The thing with the Kings is 2 of their best players are still Kopitar and Doughty from that Stanley Cup run in 2012, 2014. How many? And listen, they're both fantastic players. They're both future Hall of Famers. All the accolades you can mention about them. How long can those 2 guys at their ages be your 2 franchise cornerstones? So it'll be interesting to see how that happens with the Kings. So yeah, I think that's a good fit there. If Todd McClellan doesn't get the Leafs job, I think him in Winnipeg would be a fantastic fit. I think that's probably it makes way too much sense. My team though is the Sharks. And I've got 3 names because there's a couple different directions that you can go here with the way the Sharks are going to be. Now, we know they're going to have the number 1 overall pick. They're going to take Macklin Celebrini. So you got to think about this as one of 2 ways. You want to take a guy that's going to be a young developmental guy, that if the team really likes him, that this is a guy you're going to stick with and hopefully win a cup with, or maybe a guy that's going to be a Band-Aid to get you to when you're ready to compete. And then you bring in a guy who's more experienced and been there before. So if you're going to go down that path, Jeremy Colleton, who was the former Blackhawks head coach, who had to coach, Kane and Taves at the end of their careers with Chicago, and then amidst all the stuff that was going on with the, crap that happened in 2010. So the fact that he even got through any of that, I mean, that gives you experience as a coach that not a lot of the coaches are going to have due to the circumstances. So he knows how to handle a young team that loses a lot. another name, if you want to go with somebody that is, currently the coach of the Ontario Reign in the AHL, who's playing Coachella Valley, is Marco Sturm, former Shark and King. If you want to go with a guy who knows how to coach young talent in the minors, since he's going to be coaching a lot of those guys. So that's two directions. Those are one of those two guys. If you want to go with their experience with younger players and bad teams and how to run those, you want a veteran name that I think understands the days of him being a championship coach are behind him, but still has a lot of value, very affable with the media, which is what you need when you're bad. And you got to sometimes take attention away from the top overall pick when you want to give him, when he's having a bad time and you don't want Bruce Boudreau. That's the guy. I think, again, like he has to be willing to go and coach a team that he knows is going to be bad. And he probably won't be there long enough to see the fruits of the labor pay off. But if he's looking for one last stop to have an impact on a number one overall pick, take a young team and maybe get them to that next step. There's not a ton of media covering the Sharks in San Jose, but he's going to do well with the media. I think that's a solid fit there if you wanted to go with the experience route. So it's just a matter of which way Mike Grier wants to go.
If you know that this spot right now is going to be somewhat of a Band-Aid type head coach, and the fact that Bruce Boudreau was probably not going to be there to see, like you said, the fruits of the labor for San Jose at the end of the tunnel, why not go with Bruce Boudreau? I mean, like you said, I want a guy who's been there, that's been experienced, that knows how to handle these kids. And like you said, that's able to handle the media. He's going to be the guy for me. And, let him try to get the best out of that team as he can. Maybe they'll be terrible. Maybe they will, but they could be a lot worse with a younger head coach that, is basically going to, like you said, be that Band-Aid for somebody else that's going to be the veteran head coach that comes in later on. Maybe you have Bruce Boudreau be the guy now and have his assistant be one of those guys that takes over for him later.
Now, another thing too with Boudreau, and it's two ways here. He's a good fit for for what we were, but I also think he would be like, not that listen, in the Bay Area, it's the Warriors, it's the Giants, it's the 49ers. Those are the teams that matter. The Sharks are there, but those are the three teams. Not that Bruce Boudreau is a name that people are going to recognize, but I think his personality will mesh well with the culture out here. And I think that, maybe that also gets a few more eyeballs on the team too. So I think in that perspective, but if you're looking for maybe a guy that, you hire now and he's sticking with you for a while, maybe it's one of those younger guys. Cause those guys are also it also depends on how much money the owner wants to spend. Cause it's, Bruce Boudreau is going to come with a little bit more of a price tag than a Colleton or a Sturm. So.
Will you let Bruce Boudreau stay in your guest room if he needs to?
Yeah, absolutely. He seems like a guy that likes to eat a good meal. I could certainly get on board with that. I mean, as long as he's not allergic to dogs and cats, I got 2 cats and a dog. He's welcome to stay. And my wife does crafting in there, but I mean, he'll be on the road a lot, 41 road games a year, plus and I'm like a 2-hour drive from San Jose. So if he wants to stay, he's welcome, but he could probably do better. I mean, I don't know if
maybe that helps him. I don't know. Maybe that's what he's looking for, maybe that sways his decision at the end.
Maybe he's a big crafter and he wants to cricket, and my wife likes to use the cricket, so maybe they'll exchange ideas. I don't know. Bottom line, Bruce,
I can't imagine Bruce Boudreau being a craft guy, though. Can't.
Probably not. No, probably not. But listen, you never know. You never know what people like.
It's true.
Hey, Bruce, I'm in wine country. If you like wine, we'll go. I'll take you to all the wineries. We'll get you my discount and everything. Real nice. Come to Sonoma County. So there we go. So we think Toronto, probably Berube at this point, or McClellan. I don't think you could go with anybody inexperienced there. We talked about Winnipeg. We filled all these vacancies. I think we've done our homework today, boys.
So easy, just find a coach for an NHL team. See,
yeah. I don't understand what we just did it in like a 10-minute span. Just filled them all.
Hire us.
Yeah. The 3 of us could be a competent GM. Now, let's get to the thing that people tune in for here. We all know it. We all love it. It's sweater weather. We just pick between 2 jerseys, and you have to decide. So we have 2 teams named the Admirals in their respective playoffs. You get the Milwaukee Admirals of the AHL, the Predators affiliate, and the Norfolk Admirals of the ECHL. the Winnipeg Jets affiliate. God, I mean, if you got to go right from Norfolk to Winnipeg, that's got to be a travel nightmare. Anyway, who do you have here in these two white jerseys that are featured between the Norfolk Admirals and the Milwaukee Admirals? I always give the floor to one of you guys first, so somebody jump on in.
I do like I like both of them. But if I choose one, I'm going to go with the Milwaukee Admirals if they get the Milwaukee Brewers patch off of that jersey. I don't know what it just does not look right on there. I don't know why that's on there.
Sponsor, they might have been, because you could put sponsors on the jersey. Maybe they're sponsoring the team. I know sometimes they'll do like ticket packages where like you could get tickets for like a Brewers game and an Admirals game or something like that.
Okay. But I don't know. It just looks weird on there. At least make it the same colors. It's just like with the yellow. That patch belongs on the Norfolk Admirals jersey.
These are the colors. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. But I do like the logo better of the Milwaukee Admirals.
And went straight for the baseball patch. He's like, I can't have that on the jersey. This is unacceptable.
It just looks so weird.
It does. I will say this. Both these jerseys are not very nice. I don't know if I would spend the money on the other one. Maybe can I bank the money? Maybe buy two next week if they're better. Because we've had some pretty good matchups with like jerseys where I'd probably buy both. These ones are terrible. If I have to pick one, I'm not saying your choice was bad. I'm just saying between these two Admirals here, there's nothing to admire.
I like your idea of banking it, being like, no, I'm going to save this.
You know what I mean? Just like
I like that.
Keep it and roll it over kind of thing. Like back in the day when you can roll over your minutes or stuff and use them for the next month if you didn't use enough. If I had to pick one though, it would probably be the Admirals because like at least the logo looks better. Like I don't know, it's fine. The color pattern's okay. These are very just typical, just blah jerseys kind of thing, and you're like, okay, cool. I guess the skull's nice, but I don't like. There's two different paths here, and I don't enjoy either one of them.
You threw me off because now you got me thinking about figuring out how many minutes I had left, like back with the old Motorola StarTAC on like your monthly cell phone plan,
Yeah, or like calling after 9 p.m.
I had to call after 9. Yeah. Somebody called you at 8:56, like, hey, buddy, I'm going to call you back in like 5 minutes. All right.
Yeah. And now like people don't answer the phone. So
exactly.
Can't imagine. But yeah, just I don't know. I would probably bank my money here on these jerseys and hope next week like there's two good ones. Okay. But if not, if I have to spend the credit card, because if I don't spend it, I lose it, then I'm going to get the Milwaukee one, not the North.
But we're going to institute the banking policy moving forward. As long as you keep track of how many banks you have, because like, if you want to buy 2 weeks in a row, you can buy both jerseys if you bank up enough. So here's my thoughts on the jerseys. I think the Norfolk jersey is a little cleaner, crisper, like the colors there, the navy blue and the yellow looks pretty good. But I love that Milwaukee Admirals, logo.
Logo.
Like, this logo is badass. Like that's pretty good. But the jersey,
even with the words, even that little logo with the word, like I would get a T-shirt of that Milwaukee Admirals. How about like we bank on the jersey, get a T-shirt or a hat?
Okay, if you spend your money there, and then you got a little more money for other things, that's not a bad idea. I'm tempted to bank money now that I know that's an option here. Yeah, I'm gonna bank.
Can I take the Brewers tickets instead, as if they're the official sponsor? We'll let we won't go see the Admirals. We'll go see the Brewers.
And that's where they have the sausage race. What is that? The sausage race they have there, I think, between innings. Maybe
is it the sausage one in Milwaukee?
Sausage race, yep.
Because in Washington they have the president's race, right? It's like Lincoln and Jefferson and Washington. Yeah, I think it's like a sausage race in Milwaukee. I you know what? I'm gonna bank the money. I can always buy a T-shirt or a hat. Yeah, no, I'm not getting either of these jerseys today.
You put this together and then you're like, you know what? Nah, I'm just gonna bank it.
Hey man, I had to buy a jersey. I hope there's a refund then.
We'll see. I mean, if you haven't worn it, it's okay. If you want it, I don't know.
Maybe I can get a voucher or like one of those gift cards. Like they don't give you your money back, but they give you a voucher and like you could buy something else in the store, and then I'll go for the T-shirt and the hat.
There you go.
Did you put like a custom name on the back? Because if not, then it's not refundable.
You know what? I don't do hockey names on the back of jerseys.
You just keep them blank. That's it.
Just keep them blank. Yep.
Keeps them longer.
Unless it's a legend, I will not do a current player's name on a jersey.
We've all been burned by doing that. Yeah. Unless you're getting a guy that, was a legend on the team where like, okay, this is never going to expire, we'll say. you know.
Almost tempted when PK Subban came to the Devils because I was a huge PK Subban fan. And when he came to the Devils, he was not as good as he was in Nashville and Montreal. And I was like, I'll just go for the T-shirt.
And that was a wise decision by you. I mean, you saved some money there. Yeah, I haven't bought a Ranger jersey with somebody current on the back. I can't even remember who the last one was. Might have been Ryan Callahan. I'd have to double check. Maybe Brad Richards, just to give you an idea of where we're talking. But there you go. We got Anthony buying. He's going to go to the store and get a refund on the Milwaukee jersey and get the T-shirt and the hat. Chris and I are saving our money for next week. So there you go. Boys, I think we did with the amount we talked about today, the fact that we're out of here in an hour 10, I think is pretty solid. I think we did a good job. We moved it along today.
Yeah, so much info, so much going on in the playoffs.
Unlike the Leafs, we kept the ball rolling.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to be quicker than that. Sorry.
Look,
I was getting set up for the wrap. I wasn't ready, but there we go. But don't forget, folks, we're going to be back here next week with you next Tuesday. By then, we might even be talking conference final preview, depending upon how some of these series go. So who knows what series we'll have still left to talk about next week, but we'll definitely be previewing them here on Total Hockey Now. Don't forget, Chris also does the Slapshot podcast at Slapshot Podcast there, where you're going to look on your platforms. We also have, if you're a baseball fan, the Subway to Shea podcast at Subway to Shea. That's what Anthony does. And then tomorrow on Rip and Riff, Mr. Jared Moore, who you've seen on this show. We're back to usual format tomorrow, I believe. We've got some hot football cards, some baseball cards, and I'm actually doing an experiment here. So I'm going to do a pack of 95 Fleer. However, we all know with those old packs with the glossy cards, the cards get stuck together, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you reduce the humidity, maybe they won't be as stuck together. Now, when you drop your phone in water, what do? You put it in rice and hope for the best. We're going to find out tomorrow if this pack of cards or not. You can kind of see the little blue wrapping in there. We're going to see if this works or not.
You guys got to open some pack of cards with that, from, I don't know if it was like, I know mostly in the 80s, but with the pack of gum in it. You got to get some of those.
Better Boss from the Better Network, Sports Network, actually chewed the gum on the show when he did that. It was not, you could hear it like crack. It was like, dude, like don't
his
get that
teeth, right?
Yeah, like don't
surgery like me.
Yeah, don't end up like you. Like it's okay. I appreciate you doing what you're doing for the show, but like no, dental stuff is painful. Anthony can tell you.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, we'll have that. We'll find out tomorrow whether or not that trick works. I'm really hoping it does.
Damn, you go to Rip and Riff and you get science too.
Yeah, we give you a full show there. We really do. We try.
It's an educational
right?
show.
You got a starting lineup figure coming out of there too?
We do. We're gonna do a basketball one tomorrow since we're doing the other sports. So there we go. All right, folks. We're gonna get out of here. This edition of Rippin'. Excuse me. I'm looking at this. We got Rippin' Riffin' online. Here we go. It's Total Hockey Now.
I was feeling that.
Yeah, there we go. All right, so there we go. We'll be back with you next week on THN. But for at Ant Rivera 86 and Fuzzy Chris 91, I'm at Pucking Thoughts. Be back with you next week with an new episode of THN on the Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Total Hockey Network.